Halloween forever.
So it was kind of weird because New Year's Eve fell on a Sunday, right? But they still had all those guys play the football games. They got out there on the gridiron doing the football things because they're professionals. But one of those games, it didn't even start until 11 p.m. And you know how those football games go. They're about 2 to 3 hours long. The two teams, they kept the score close the entire game. It almost went into overtime. What happened is it ended 20-24. And welcome to a little miniest of the mini episodes. The miniest episode that you could possibly have of Halloween is Forever. I'm Steve, and I'm just by myself, hanging out. Just wanted to shoot a couple quick 2-treat things at you. We're still on holiday break. Brian's not here. He's on holiday break. He's all full of meat and cheese. He can't come to the microphone right now. I'm just about full of meat and cheese, but I just have a little bit higher capacity than he does. So I'm able to come here and just give you a quick update of what's happening, what's going on, what you can expect, and I'll get out of your hair and we'll all go back to just kind of being slovenly and slowly work into working again. Let's not go back to work in 2024. Let's make that our resolution. No more jobs. Jobs are done. Tell them to put the robots in. We're out of here. We've had enough. But what I am going to do for you is I'm going to tell you our 3 movies for our upcoming January Showdown, which is a Giallo Showdown. So we're doing a Giallo January. That's how we say it now. January. And we're going to have a guest on. We're going to be joined by Sarah Elizabeth, the Reanimated Nerd. You can find her on Instagram, and she's a FX, she does horror makeup, and she does a little bit acting. She does a little bit of cosplay. She does a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And she has a short film coming up in the new year. So we'll talk to her about that when she's on the episode. But we all picked our Giallo movies, and Sarah will be defending Tenebrae, one of the better Dario Argentos. It's one of my, I don't want to say favorites, because obviously my favorite's opera. I already did that on an episode, so we can't redo that. But Tenebrae is definitely up there. Brian will be defending Torso from 1973. This one is directed by one Mr. Sergio Martino. So you can find that. And then I will be taking on Blood and Black Lace from 1964, directed by Mario Bava. Those will be your Giallo January flicks that you should be watching in this little downtime. And next week we will get into the showdown and defend all 3 of those movies. While I have you here, though, let's do a beer. We're just going to do a beer. And I'm doing this beer because old Brian ain't here to yell at me and give me the business about it. It is from the Abjuration Brewing Company, right in the heart of McKees Rocks, Pennsylvania. Go on down and visit them. They actually share space. It's one of the craziest venues if you've never heard us talk about it before, but they share space in the Parkway Theater Lounge, which is like its own bar and lounge. It's also a 1-screen movie theater, and they get a lot of the great kind of just underground films that come through. I believe like they, for example, Infinity Pool played there is, so they get all the good stuff. And, but they also have this brewery, Abjuration, that's also in the same building. So you can get a beer at Abjuration and walk over to the theater. It's a cool venue. Check it out. But from them, I have their Parfait Sour version 1.4. And this is a sour ale with yogurt, maple syrup, blackberry puree, strawberry puree, blueberry puree, blackcurrant puree, and granola. So yeah, This has all the things that you would find in a breakfast parfait, and they just jammed it into the fermenter tanks, and they just let it sit and ferment, and I'll tell you what, it actually really works. There's so much fruit in this, it's just insane. On the nose, though, the nose is slightly off-putting because it smells like yogurt. Like, it smells like a yogurt parfait, and it's not a common smell you want from beer. And now Brian's punching the radio, and I'm sure he's throwing all his brewing books on the ground and just yelling, they can't keep getting away with this. But on the taste, it's actually just like a really tangy, fruity parfait. Like, you don't get the sour yogurt notes from it. Like, the sour is inherent from the style, but it's not like an added, and I can only compare this to something else that many people may or may not have drank, but there is a yogurt flavored soju out there. And if you've had yogurt flavored soju, you know it has just like that little bit of tang on it, that bacteria tang from yogurt. But yeah, this doesn't have it beyond what's already in a sour ale, and it's only 4.5%, so you can actually kind of crush this for the morning, no problem. Otherwise, yeah, it's a wonderful beer. Again, I love a lot of what Abjuration does, despite Brian calling me a gloop glop heretic. I don't have to listen to it because he's not here to get me. But yeah, go check them out. They got plenty of other things going on. And with that, I just want to say thanks to all our listeners who joined us in 2023. Hello to any new listeners who may be joining us in 2024. We hope your holidays went well. We hope your new year was bright and you have a lot of fun things on the lookout for yourselves, that you have your goals set up. You don't have to do resolutions. You don't have to do dry January. You don't have to do those things. But, you know, if you just have like one project that you want to get out there, one project you want to complete, you know, focus up on that. You know, get ready. Do it for yourself. Make it happen. But we are going to continue to do our spooky ooky things, and we're going to continue to do them on the Patreon as well. So our little gift to you that we're going to do in this interim time while we're not doing like a full episode is I'm going to give you just a little tiny taste, give you that little hit, give you that little first dose of Family is Forever. You know, we've been running this Patreon exclusive podcast for the past 6 months. We've got 6 episodes down, and for only $5 a month, you can get access to all of them. It's a pretty good deal at this point, because if you pay $5 now, you get 6 extra bonus episodes, and these ain't no small ass episodes. Pretty much every episode is like 2 to 3 hours of Brian and I just bashing the Fast and the Furious films. Like, they're driving him crazy. I enjoy them ironically, I think, maybe, but I just might be losing my mind and just actually enjoy them. I don't know. And then we come together and it's a catalyst, and Brian is upset and I'm not so upset. I'm just torturing him. And then eventually we'll run out of Fast and Furious films and we'll switch to something else. And then, you know, you get to listen to whatever Brian tortures me with. And that's just kind of what we're doing over on the Patreon. But if you like the episodes of Halloween is Forever, where we get a real stinkeroo of a movie and we can just kind of unload. I was thinking about this one because somebody brought it up on social media. Somebody brought up fear.com. Boy, is that movie a stinker. But Brian and I laughed our fucking balls off at that episode. You know, just make it's because we're just trying to make each other laugh about, you know, a bad movie. And that's what we're doing with Fast and Furious. That's what Family is Forever is about. So jump on there. You get that $5 tier. You get all these 6 episodes. Like, at this point, it's less than $1 an episode. So yeah, why wouldn't you want to check it out now? Get in on that. Make that part of your 2024 resolution. I'm going to start supporting the creators who entertain me every week. And then also, you get to be part of our Discord. You can jump when we do, you know, live recorded episodes. You can see those episodes happen in real time. You can chime in even. You can get into that chat room and just start sending us messages, and we'll give you shout outs on the episode. You hear us when our other patrons give us some, you know, good lines and stuff like that when, You know, you hear a shout out Dan and you hear a shout out Ron. They show up a lot. But why not you? Why can't it be you giving us the good lines? So hop on patreon.com/HalloweenIsForever to get all that. And don't forget to just follow us everywhere on social media or your favorite podcatcher and give it the 5-star reviews and all that kind of good stuff. We love it. So yeah, sign up now, be a part of it, and we'll continue to grow all this together in 2024. But for now, I'm going to drink my little parfait beer, and then I got a Jersey Mike's hoagie waiting for me. So I'm going to enjoy these things. You enjoy this little snippet of Family is Forever. And we'll all reconvene next week for Giallo January. Bye-bye.
So, yeah. So like they said, this is like a throwback before Han goes to Tokyo, obviously. But then like, I actually don't even remember why I wrote this. I watched this movie over the course of like 2 weeks.
Sure.
Like I really just couldn't. But there's I wrote down, quote, ride or die, remember? What happens there? What
ride
is
or die?
What,
it's got to be.
it's Letty and Dom.
Yeah. It's got to be something
Letty or
said.
Dom.
Yeah.
Because so here's what happened. I'm remembering this now because Dom is like, there's too much going on. You're gonna get in trouble if you keep hanging out with me. And Letty's like, yeah, ride or die, remember? And then Dom's like, I'm too dangerous, blah blah blah. So that's that's kind of how they set it up. Is like Dom tells her shit's getting too crazy over on Dom Street. You got to get the fuck up out of here, right? So Dom creeps out while she's sleeping and leaves, just ditches her, right? He's wearing white jeans, by the way. I think it's important to point out. And he just leaves her, right? Because he's worried about her well-being, apparently. Cut to Paul fucking Walker doing a whole Men in Black fucking foot chase across the roofs in LA, just terrorizing people.
Yeah.
Like he does in every movie. He is the biggest like villain in movie history. And we're supposed to like him, and everyone likes him and wants to be him and fuck him. Meanwhile, he is an absolute fucking villain. He's just shooting randomly into crowds, chasing some random street tough. The whole thing, I just could not think about the meme of like Paul Walker all of a sudden jumping across fucking rooftops and shit. And I was like, Jesus Christ, it's Jason Bourne. I just kept thinking of that like meme thing.
Jesus Christ. Do you think the filmmaker in this scene was trying to like say something about how far Paul Walker has fallen at this point? Like he's not the same Paul Walker because like one, he's in a suit. Paul Walker never wears a suit. He dresses like a douchebag wearing Dickies and shit. You know?
Yeah.
He's saying "cuh." You know, he ain't calling nobody "cuh" right now.
He ain't. He's a suit. He's a suit now. He ain't got no "cuh."
He's a suit. He's on a foot chase, so he's not in a car. How much does that gotta hurt him? Honestly,
the most insulting thing you can do to a car guy, make him use his legs.
Yeah. His legs aren't used to this. And then
it's so disrespectful.
He's basically chasing he's chasing like a Wish.com Dominic Toretto because it's just a bald guy in a wife beater who's just gonna like run down.
But in this movie, it's an important distinction, and I think this is one of the most significant character development of Dom Toretto so far in this franchise. Is in this movie, Dom doesn't wear wife beaters; he wears thermals.
He wears thermals. He's got some sweaters on. Happened to his,
that's a big face turn as far as Dom's concerned.
Yeah. And they're white, so they're white still out. So that still means good guy.
Still white. But anyway, so I'm essentially what happens is, surprise, surprise, Paul Walker, who is an FBI agent, like we said at this point, needs to get mixed up in street racing to catch the bad guys, because he always does, right?
As always.
It's just it's so stupid, but they're cartel bad guys, right? So Dom gets a call that Letty has been murdered. And I wrote good. I hate her. I wish everyone else would now get murdered, but unfortunately,
I hope this continues.
Yeah, this is a trend that I would like to see where this goes if everyone could be murdered. So now, you cut to Letty's funeral. Paul Walker and Dom are both watching the funeral from different areas, but from a distance kind of thing. But
right.
Paul Walker they're basically waiting for Dom to show up to the funeral because they're going to arrest him because he's, of course, a fugitive.
Mm-hmm.
But Paul Walker, they don't see him. They're looking for him. But Paul Walker, he can tell there's a disturbance in the force.
Yeah.
So he knows he's there. He can sense his big car muscles. He just doesn't know where.
It's a real Commissioner Gordon Batman type dynamic they have going on.
Yeah, you're right.
Yeah.
That is a good analogy.
I have the note Juggalo funeral simply because all of the like tricked out cars that are pulled up to the funeral, like it's not classy in the least. It's all white trash, and I can only just think of like Juggalo funerals where people,
bunch of like white people wearing do-rags at this funeral,
right?
Like they're all just hanging around, like dumping out Faygo, going whoop whoop, as they pay their respects. So Dom's sister is back on the scene. Great, like she fucking is. But she could her like, for as much presence as she has on screen, she could be replaced by like a strategically placed piece of fucking timber. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Like she adds nothing.
Yeah, she could have been a post-it note, but we have a character instead.
Yeah. She's here. She is here. Dom's Fast and Furious car is there. And it's cursed or something. I don't know. And Letty worked on it, and she put a cross in the mirror, so now the car's magic now, I think. But they never really pays off. But they never really pay that off. You know what I mean? Like they do. I mean, it kind of, if you think about it, it's like, oh, he drives the car to, or whatever, but to safety at the end. But they never call it back. They set it up and they never really call it back.
Yeah, it's just like, a thing of like, hey, it's family, and she saved my car, and then she saved me, and now I get to be the good guy, and then also this is my car that my dad, and then my dad and I worked on this car, but they got wrecked
and
at the one.
And my girlfriend also worked on it, so it's all of our cars.
It's all family, and now I get to drive.
It's a family car. It's a family vehicle.
I'm back home. I get to drive this car, not the other car that's also black and faced.
Black and faced. So Paul Walker has to bust this. So the guy's name's Braga. He's the head of the cartel. And they're basically like, hey, Paul Walker, we gave you a suit. How come you haven't busted the bad guy? And he's like, I don't know. I've been too busy. And they're like, well, you got 72 hours. So literally nothing. It's like you have 72 hours or nothing will happen.
Yeah. We'll move on, I guess.
Yeah, there's never any stakes. That's what I'm saying. Like, there's never any stakes. And even in this instance, with Letty dying, it has already happened.
Right.
So no one, like, there's no stakes surrounding it. The thing that you could say is like, oh, they look out for each other. They don't want Letty to die. They don't want the sister to die. They don't want, Dom's not going to die. Paul Walker's not going to die.
Right.
But a Goyle might die, like in Double Dragon. It's like this, but it never actually is stakes.
Right. It's the problem with writing Superman, really, is that Superman can't or won't die. So what you do is you put everybody else around him in peril.
Right.
But that's what they don't do in this movie. They don't put anybody in peril. Like if it was not that Letty died, but she was captured by Braga.
Yeah.
Because, spoiler for later in the movie, they find out that Letty was working with Paul Walker. So if it was discovered that she was undercover and then Braga took her prisoner or whatever and was hiding her away, and they had to save her with another undercover operation, that's something. But it's nothing that she's dead.
Well, and you might be saying, well, what do you mean there's no stakes? Letty died. Yes, but she died without them knowing.
Yeah, she died
so they
off
learned
camera.
after the fact. She died off camera, and they learned after the fact.
Yeah.
So there are no stakes to what they're doing. There's only revenge.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? That can be had. There's not saving her. Nothing. She's already dead. They can't do anything about that. So it's strictly a revenge story now. Revenge for a character that you never let us get to know.
Right.
Which is even worse, which we'll talk about why, they thought they were being clever by doing a little switcheroo. But all that did was you never allowed us to hate the 007 villain. You know what I mean? You never established this person as a villain because you were too busy being clever, which is not clever. It was so fucking. Anyway, we're getting ahead of ourselves a little bit here. But so Paul Walker sees on a computer that, or like on a computer's on as the audience, you see that Letty was an agent and she shows up as deceased, on the list of agents or whatever. But they don't really say anything explicitly about it. So as it's very easily spelled out. But if you're a brain damaged 14-year-old watching this in the theater, you might be like, "Oh, good catch. Mysterious." Yes. Stupid. Also, yes. So Dom is the worst criminal in the fucking world. Pretty much. But he's also Batman. Yeah. Like we said. Like he is also has all the characteristics of Batman. Like but for douchebag car stuff. So he goes to the place where Letty crashed, right? And died, apparently. And he like smells the road and like forensically knows what happened to his girlfriend by smelling the road. I mean, I'm oversimplifying a little bit, but there's a thing called nitro meth. Yes. And I can't believe that's actually in the script, but it is. So, and I guess, yeah, go ahead.
So what it is
this in Dom's? Is this in fucking Vin Diesel's like fanfic that he did?
It's not in Vin Diesel's fanfic. What it is it actually is nitromethane, which is
it's for pussies.
Yeah, it's a real fuel. But it's a fuel that's run in like drag strip cars. And like if you try to put it in a real engine, it'll destroy the engine. Like the person running this fuel is like destroying their engine, rebuilding it and replacing everything in it every 3 days that they drive this thing. But we've already established from the first film, when Dominic hears an engine, he knows exactly who drives that car. He has the cartism that allows him to identify fuel systems and engines, and he can do it from smell, and then it allows him to rebuild everything around him like the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes movies, just from smell.
I mean, that's it. He goes there, he sniffs the road, and he knows who kills his girlfriend, basically.
Yep. Well, he knows the car that he was driving. He doesn't know who killed her.
No, he knows who did it because he goes, "Only one son of a bitch I know runs nitro meth." Like that's, and he's like, fucking Braga. Like he knows who did it, or that it was one of Braga's men. At least.
He knows only one guy in LA sells that fuel. And so that's why he
sells it.
That's why right. You have the scene with that guy in the garage where you also get,
oh God, you're right.
Vin Diesel's Superman powers of catching an entire engine block with one hand.
Yeah. We'll get to that in a second, but so there's this bad cop, right? Which you keep thinking he's going to be like crooked or work for Braga or something. He doesn't. None of that pays off. He's just a dick that works in Paul Walker's office. And he's actually not a dick. He makes a mistake later on, but like by jumping the gun on a fax. We'll get to that. But ultimately, he just hates Paul Walker. So he's the only sensible one.
Right.
Like you should hate Paul Walker. You should be like, why is this piece of shit? I worked all my life to be in the FBI. This guy is a piece of garbage. And he outranks me. Like he walks in board shorts, like
Right. Yeah.
having people sniff his fingers, and he's ahead of me, like in the pecking order. You should hate him.
He microwaves fish at lunch and listens to ska really loud without headphones.
Yeah, he unironically hit on every girl in the office by asking them to a 311 concert.
Right, yeah.
Like 100%.
So like this character, the quote unquote dick cop, he's exactly like, or we're supposed to feel like he's exactly like the guy from Too Fast, who is also up Paul Walker's ass and like, hey, I'm gonna get some pictures of your girlfriend. You remember that guy? Except for he doesn't do any of that because he's not a sleaze. He just doesn't like Paul Walker.
Yeah, he is a villain because he doesn't like Paul Walker, and the rest of this universe wants to suck Paul Walker's dick 24/7.
Right.
And he's the only one who lives outside that system, and so he's a bad guy.
Right. Yeah.
And he's actually the unsung hero of this movie, and I would much rather watch an entire spin-off franchise with this guy just going around. Like he's basically like what the fuck is his name? Oh my god, this is the easiest Simpsons reference ever. But what's the guy who
Gil?
No, not Gil. The guy who is wants Homer's job.
Oh, Frank. It's Frank, isn't
Frank.
it? Yeah.
Frank Grimes.
Frank Grimes. Grimy.
Yeah, he's Frank Grimes. He worked for this.
Yeah.
He wants this. He comes to the Simpsons house. He's like, you can't read. This house is like a palace compared to my... Like, he's the guy who lives in the real world, and Homer Simpson has just failed upward for decades. He is the Frank Grimes of the Fast and the Furious franchise, and I want to see him like on like a Better Call Saul style, spin-off.
Yeah.
With this guy.